Well, what's in the box, you say? Let's have a look. Lots and lots and lots of Amiga floppies. So, what's our job today? Well, I've got the Amiga 2000 out. I figured out which floppy disk is which. That was the first confusion. I've got a USB floppy drive, and I have an old floppy drive, an actual genuine job, plugged into my PC. What are we doing? Well, we're trying to get a high density floppy disk to copy to from a low density floppy disk, and hopefully get the Amiga writing to the PC disks. So I'll go over this really quickly on how we're actually going to do this. Now let's take a look at the floppy disks. This is an Amiga 500 disk, also compatible with the Amiga 2000. This here is a PC disk. Now physically they fit into the same drives and they don't look a lot different, but you'll notice there is an extra hole in the corner where it's not present in the Amiga disk. This indicates to the drives that it's a high density disk. Now there's a bit of a problem when you want to format a disk to work in an Amiga. It's pretty much not possible on a PC, or so they said. So if we take a little piece of tape and cover up that hole, the PC now thinks this is a low density disk. So what next? Well, you can't format a disk as 720k under Windows these days, unless you use the command line, which we'll go over that soon. So you can end up getting a low density format disk with a little bit of mucking around. Now, how is that important? Well, we can then take this disk and put it into the Amiga. But wait, there's more. We can't write to it directly. Not yet anyway. We can find, and we'll go over this as well, there is a feature that's bundled into more recent versions of Workbench called Cross Disk, or Cross DOS rather. And this little feature allows a bit of translation so that you can write directly to one of these disks, which then means we can get some files to and from the Amiga. But this Amiga 2000 we have has a 40 meg hard drive. That is going to be a long day's work. So what are we going to do about that? Well, there is a little bit of software that I've just read about that will allow you to talk to your Amiga 2000 using a null modem cable. And I happen to have a cable here with clamshells that I can rewire, and a gender bender to connect to the serial port. Now, my little workstation over there, being as it's a business workstation, still has a serial port. I could use a USB one, but the native ports seem to have some functions that the USB things often don't. So that is handy. And also, as was donated in my last unboxing video, as a USB floppy disk. But I do have one of the originals, as I mentioned earlier. So I think between all of this, we should be able to get something happening. We'll be able to back up the original files. Then we can start messing with the OS. But between all this, what means is I can actually put some software on this floppy disk, copy it to the Amiga, should I need to have something running on the Amiga side, and then I can set up the null modem to work, or the null modem cable. We're not actually involving a modem in this, just serial to serial communications. Much like I did in my TAFE days back in the 2000, copying things from computers with parallel leads. Anyway, let's get on with this and see what we can do. So I've been sitting here for about the last 10 minutes trying to check the pin out, discovered that this is all a straight through, which is fine, it's what we expected. And I'm going to turn my probes off because I remembered that my North Queensland computer expert guy, before he moved, he gave me a whole bunch of old stock stuff, including gender bender, a gender changer, and a box full of stuff that included a cross-wired null modem cable. In fact, I have about 10 of these. So I think I'm just going to plug some adapters in, check the pinouts and see what happens. Down the side of my test bench here, I have this wad of cables running down. Buried in amongst them is an extension cable from the serial port, so that being a VGA cable, this being the extension of the serial port. Now I use that to program radios that use TTL, but this I know is a straight through cable, so we should be pretty right to plug straight into that, and it's about in the right spot. So let's plug some stuff in and see what we can do. Well, it turns out my gender bender was the wrong gender. But I had a look through my collection and I found a male-to-male DB25 lead. I'm going to be busy checking pinouts, but hopefully once all this is connected, we'll be doing good. I'm not going to plug this in without testing, but let's see what happens. Alright, so better safe than sorry. We don't want to repeat the keyboard port incident. I'm just checking a few of these pins here, and I'm going to start with pin 2 here. I've got some diagrams up on screen here for the record. Oh, I need to turn on my continuity check. Sorry about the fan noise, guys, but it's all connected to the same circuit. Right, so our pin 2 here should connect to pin 2 on serial port. Okay, that's pretty much the last one. I've checked most of these, but there are a couple that are a little out of place, but they seem to be common grounds. So the data lines at least seem to be all going in the right place. So fairly confident this should work, but if it doesn't, expect some swearing off camera that you probably won't hear. Sorry about the background noise for a minute. I have the air conditioning on, but what I also have new in box is a female-to-female DB9 gender bender, which crucially is the bit that I'm missing. I've gone to connect everything together, gone to connect my gender bender and realised I have a male. I don't know if I'd ever be displeased to see a male, but anyway, let's see how we go. Well, this is the point where I'd make some sort of reference to the differently engendered, but it's a touchy topic these days. I don't think people would really see it for the humour that it's intended. But we have gender benders, and before you really get on that, they are actually called gender changes because plugs have male and female genders. Anyway, what have we got going on here? So we have the serial port that uses a DB25. That goes through a null modem cable, which has got the send and receive lines flipped, and it goes through a straight through male to male DB25 to DB9 gender changer, to a DB9 female. Then we have a DB9 sorry, that's a DB9 male. Then we have a 9 female to female. Then we have a straight through back into the port. I did discover that my Dell T3500 actually has a 25 pin port on the back, but it's a parallel port. Fun. Anyway, let's see if this works. I'm going to set some software up, set up a virtual floppy, and then maybe fire the Amiga up. The special thing we have today, I did recover my video capture device, so hopefully we'll be able to have some proper clean video capture of that part of the process. So let's move on. Right, so here we're copying some files across from PC to a floppy. We're using the Amiga Explorer software, and because it's not automatically transferring that to the Amiga. So let's try from here. Right, so in this bit we've got to go and enable ourselves cross-DOS, which you'll find under Workbench, and I believe under Tools. I have to think here for a moment. Let's open this box up. Tools, and under here we'll find Commodities. It's a bit hard to read with this capture, and over the top here we have cross-DOS. So what we're doing here is we're just enabling the compatibility, or a bit of translation here, so that we can read the FAT partitions instead of Amiga's partitioning system. So we're setting this up on floppy disk 0 or PC 0, and in ASC 2-7, which seems to be the one that works. Don't ask me why that's the case. Right, so from here we should be able to insert a floppy. Okay, now that we've got cross-DOS enabled, we're going to put our disk in, and we'll see how we go from there. We should be able to access the files. Keep it going from there. Rightio, so now she's working. We can see the disk come up here. I am going to try just the other port just to demonstrate what happens. So here
it seems to be working quite fine, but if we pull this floppy disk out for a moment, where are we? We'll close this window first. We'll pull that floppy disk out, we'll plug it into the other port. I think we've enabled translation on both. We have indeed. Okay, so it's going to work on both drives. Now you might wonder what's going on here. We can see the disk, but we can't see any files. Well, actually you've got to show the files. So as I'm voicing this over, so let's stumble around here like a drunken barfly for a little bit and figure out where we left our VB. Right, what were we doing again? Okay, that's right. What we have on this disk are the files required to run the Explorer or Amiga Explorer. Oh, okay. Group selects don't behave the same way, apparently. In any case, we're trying to copy across the files required to run Amiga Explorer from the hard drive, at least from this end. It's a client-server kind of setup. Alright, so these aren't executable files, and despite being told to the contrary, I'm going to have to do a little bit of research here, so I will try a couple of these here. I'm mostly experimenting. I'm sure some of you out there that use Amigas are probably yelling at the screen right now, and it's probably quite hilarious to watch, but you know what, I'm learning here too, so by all means rant at me in the comments.
Okay, so after much frustration, getting rid of the gender benders, I found two leads. I'm going to make up my own lead, according to the pinout we have. So, here goes nothing. See if I can let the magic smoke out of something. Right, so one of the reasons I chose those two particular leads is they had a clamshell on the end, which meant I can just unscrew it and reuse the connector. This one's going to be a little fun cleaning up all the pins, but you know, we'll do what we can. I do have the desoldering tool, a desoldering station on loan, so that might even help with that. Now the next job here is tinning all these cables or wires or whatever word. I've not had a lot of sleep lately, so I'm inclined to be a touch shaky and mess my words up. It has been suggested to me that I record my audio after the video and dub it over the top, but then you wouldn't get to hear me make so many mistakes, and you would realize that humans are human and they make mistakes too. But anyway, I've put a new Brillo pad in my soldering iron cleaning station too, which is really handy. It does a better job. Alright, I've got most of these tinned. I'm probably not going to film this bit with me actually soldering it together because I need to concentrate and I don't really want to get this wrong, so I'll get it right and we'll do a recap once I've got all the connections done. Well, I'm making a little bit of headway. You can see here that all these cables have been removed. A cable really consists of multiple conductors, so that's probably the wrong terminology. Now this is a really dirty connector on the back. I'm going to hit this with some contact cleaner. Normally I would get the desoldering tool out and actually evacuate all those cups, but I'm thinking I'm probably actually just going to heat the tinned wire and just drop it into that slot, at least until I've got everything sorted. I think that'll probably be quite fine, provided I get no shorts. Alright, so let's keep going. Okay, so the next part we're up to is checking our pinouts for the cable here. I'm taking notes this time and just making sure I've got everything 100% correct. So at the moment we're up to looking for pin 1. Helps if I turn my continuity beeper on. Right. First shot, I think that's brown. How's that? Brown is pin 1. So we'll write that down. Is brown. Right, I'm going to keep moving through all of these till I've got this all mapped out, and then we'll get down to actually connecting it to the DB25. Okay, so we've finished mapping the pins, and just for those of you who are interested, this is my crappily written pinout. I now have to mirror that because these the pins are mirrored on this.
So I'll translate that and then I'll start soldering wires. Ignoring the politically sponsored notepads, this is my translation. So this is as I checked it from the female plug. This is translated or mirrored or translated. So that's good. Now I've checked the diagrams I have on the screen here, which shows the correct pinout. So I've translated all the correct colors over to this. I will have to do one little bridge between two pins, and I'll be putting two wires on the one pin. And the other thing, this little uninsulated wire will be going to the shield or the ground on the external of this. So let's get wiring. Okay, well, I'm going to try and get this a bit of an interesting angle here, and just to show you the soldering in the process. So I think I've got the camera out of the way. There we go. Let's see how we go. Our iron's nice and hot. We need to give it a little bit of a tin and clear this up. So let's see, this is the brown and the black going on pin 20. Alright, that's gone in nicely. You'll notice that along here I've marked the pins, so I've got an idea of the layout. It just helps prevent me from making any more mistakes. As you know, with this retro stuff, fixing things, as you know, can be a challenge. So I'm just heating that solder cup and I'm just dropping the wire into it. So pin 2 is orange, pin 3 is a yellow. I didn't tin that very well, did I? Right. Pin 4 should be grey. Let's have a look here. Pin 4 should be grey. Oh, this is a messy job. Let's put that in properly. It's my apprentice there requesting my attention by the sound of things. We'll get to that. Alright, so pin 5 should be red. There you go. And you can hear my apprentice sneaking in to watch what I'm doing. Alright, so now pin 6 should be green. Didn't get the response she wanted apparently. Says there green wire. Okay, now green should bridge over to the next one. So that leaves the blue to go into this one, which should be, blue should be pins, 5, green on 6, which means blue on 7. There we go. And where's our white wire going? Our white wire might not be used. Interesting. I will double check that. So let's see, do we have a white wire actually? I actually didn't find where the white wire went. So let's check this out. Let's turn on my beeper. Let's check where our white wire actually goes. Let's hold that on here. We'll bring in our other end over here. And let's see if we can find where our white goes. So our white appears to be connected to... I'm doing well today. I'm getting first shot on everything. So our white is connected to that pin there. And that pin, let's have a good little look in here. I need to use my little magnifier here. That would appear to be pin 5. So pin 5 is apparently also connected to the red. Let's double check this. Pin 5 is not connected to the red. Okay, so I'm going to have to take some time and just double check everything, and we'll be back. Okay, after some further checking, I discovered I was reading this backwards, which is why you always double check with these things. That is actually pin 9, and according to my diagram, pin 9 is not used. So we're going to go El Snippo, and we'll peel off some of the existing blue tack out of the port. That could end badly. Now the previous people to wire this plug, I think, used this little location here for a ground. We might reuse that location, being as it's already tinned. Now, being as this is not insulated wire, I'm going to burn my fingers, so we'll use my trusty Victronox here. Actually, I should put some heat shrink on that first. Let's do that. Well, it would appear that I'm all out of the tiny heat shrink that I need, so I'm just going to have to wing this, and I'll probably do something stupid like put insulation tape in there. So let's just solder this on. A little bit more heat because it's getting a heatsink from the pliers and the shielding, but that looks like it's fairly sturdy. Alright, and we'll take this guy out of the way. Let's put this clamshell back together and see what we get, and then we'll check our pinouts. Alright, we're about to put it back in the clamshell. Unfortunately, I don't have the cable clamp that comes with the clamshell, so I'm going to use my good old favourite hot glue. But you can see here, and just in case you didn't remind me, I did put that little loop back in between those two pins. The uninsulated ground wire, I've actually improvised a little bit of insulation tape because I ran out of heat shrink, as you probably would recall. So let's get this clamshell hot glued and closed up and tested. Okay, it's smoke test time. I've been through, we've verified all the pins, and everything's where it should be. That's pretty well amazing for a first go for me. I usually cock it up and pick it up during the checking. So, dare we plug this in? Well, I'm really happy. Amiga Explorer actually decided to go through with a setup, and it successfully communicated. I did have some troubles. I use Immunet as a virus scanner. I had to tell it to leave the directory alone. It kept complaining about resource conflicts. So let's just have a quick browse through the directory here. I think docs has probably got the most in it. We'll try and copy a file. Which one do we do? I think we're waiting here. I had an error right into the COM port. Okay, this is what I was talking about before. I've got to run Amiga Explorer on the Amiga. But we'll do that very shortly. Matching COM port settings. That's what I'm reading here. Yes, that's very easy to do. We'll just go back here. Now, if you're hearing some funny sounds in the background, we have crickets that are almost as loud as cicadas here. So I'm competing with them, even though I've shut everything up as much as I can. Now, I'm a little tempted to just group select everything here and copy them all, but I've got a feeling that might time out. So let's try and make ourselves a new folder. That might take a while. This is going to be interesting. I'm probably going to have to do a little bit more messing around here. I've got a folder on the desktop already. Let's see if we can copy anything. Oh, okay. We're having, it's actually retrieving some folder information. That means it's indexing, and that means I've probably got two-way communication over the serial port. This will be really good. However, I've probably just tried to index probably a full 40 meg or 39 meg of files, which probably doesn't seem like much these days. Yeah, we'll get rid of the screen recorder in a minute. But this could take a while, so let's just jump forward to when I get this working. Well, looks like I've got a long afternoon ahead of me. I've got about 40 meg of files to copy at really slow serial baud rate. Well, I guess this completes the Amiga 2000. I can't remember what part I'm up to, but we'll do a little bit more with it soon enough. And then we'll move on to the 1000.